Hey, I'm Matt Hutchins and he's Dave Mulvaney, and this is Profitability MD. Dave, how you doing today, buddy?
Great, Matt. How about you?
I am doing great. Episode 168, Exponential Growth. So I was on a guy named Peter Diamandis. You said I think you got a copy of his book right there, don't you?
Copy of his book, Bold.
Bold.
Yep.
He's got some other stuff out there. He's got a conference going on right now called Abundance 360. So I was listening to that earlier today. And so I thought it'd be fun to talk about. He had an expert on there named Salim, S-A-L-I-M, Ismail, I-S-M-A-I-L, who's got a book called Exponential Organizations. He's also got a website, Scaling for Growth, the number 4, scalingforgrowth.com. And so in it, he was talking about how to exponentially grow a business or organization. Now, he was talking more about bigger organizations, but he was also trying to encourage even smaller entrepreneurs how you can think exponentially about growing your business. How would you go about growing your business? So I thought we would kind of explore that. Sound good?
Sure. Just perfect.
Yeah. So we'll just go through. So he has like these little algorithm that he called it. So he said you need 3 things. You need MTP, which he called massive transformative position. It's kind of like your why. We'll come back to that in 1 second. Then he has an algorithm saying you need external characteristics, like how do you view the world? That's called scale. And then internal, how do you manage things internally? And he called that ideas. It's an acronym, and I'll go through those. But I want to apply those to a small business or a medium business, or an entrepreneur type business like that we talk about all the time. So the first thing he talks about is you need a massive, he called it MTP, massive transformative position. I call it you need your why, right? Yeah. And so the example that Peter Diamandis, who's the host of this whole thing, he said, he's all about a futurist. Peter Diamandis is a futurist, and abundance in the future, and how everything's going to be digitized. So he has a mantra, kind of a personal mantra himself, MTP, inspire and guide entrepreneurs for an abundant future. So he's all about abundance, he's about future, and he's always about growth. So that would be kind of his why, right? Yeah. So it's a little different than a mission statement, but it's also something that you can get behind. I've seen some entrepreneurs. There's another guru out there who says, I want to help 10,000 entrepreneurs reach $1 million a year, right? That would be an inspirational type, emotional. It's supposed to be like an emotional why that others can get behind. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, of course. And I think the people often choose something that maybe their why they're not as passionate about. Sometimes your why could be simply because you're trying to feed 1 million homeless people. Like Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins doing that big thing now where they've given over 1 billion, I believe.
Okay.
Or they've given 100 million meals.
Okay.
So now his next thing is 1 billion meals. So
it's a great why, right? That's his. Yeah. So then you could get behind Tony and support him and his projects, because his goal is to take those profits and feed 1 billion people.
Yeah, so that becomes the purpose, or this transformational purpose type thing. So.
Okay. So then he started talking about, and by the way, he did this whole research with some Fortune 500 companies. I think it was actually the Fortune 100. And he said, what are their characteristics? And he also did with startups. What are the startup characteristics? So he's saying if you're a startup or a smaller corporation, you really need these 10 characteristics. If you're a bigger corporation, in order to take it to the next level, because you're already big, you need these 10. And his whole point was you don't need all 10, you need 4 out of 10. You need 3 out of 10, you need 5 out of 10. And he did research study for the Fortune 100 companies. Those that were more adaptive had 40 times more stock growth. So he actually did it. Your stock increased over a 7 or 8 year period. The top 10 who followed these rules grew 40 times faster than the bottom 10. Wow. But I thought we'd be fun to just kind of apply it to our own thing. But like I said, he's saying any small business, if you're going to start a business today, these are the things you would think about. So the first acronym he called, you need 5 external characteristics. So for an exponential organization. So how do you view the world? How do you interact with the world? And so he calls that scale, S-C-A-L-E. So I'll go through those 5. So he said staff on demand. So staff on demand is kind of like using virtual assistants or using temporary employees or contract labor, right?
Yeah, and of course, this comes in at Dan Sullivan, where, and by the way, I never heard of Peter Diamandis before until I was in Dan Sullivan, strategic coach. But this is the adage of, you got to think again of who and not how.
Yes.
And so this staff on demand idea is, all right, I went through this exercise this morning going,
Okay.
I got a lot going on in the marketing world. I really need someone that I can trust to write for me, but I can oversee because I've got so much, going. And so I started searching for a marketing assistant, and
Okay.
same concept here, thinking in
concept.
staff on demand, who can I insert into this equation to make me more effective? And of course, if you want to scale, you gotta start inserting people into the equation, or you're always going to be stuck limited by the amount of time that you have. So
yeah, exactly right. Now I'll use some other examples for small businesses already, right? So a bookkeeper is a great thing, right?
Yep.
So a lot of small business owners are trying to do their own books, or their spouse is doing their books, and their spouse is an English major or a history major, right? And so a bookkeeper is great, right? As you get bigger, you can hire a controller and a CFO, but even the basics of just having a bookkeeper helps you keep the balanced books, and you oversee that, right? You talked about marketing. You can hire a marketing. Nowadays, you hire a marketing agency, right? Digital marketing agency or a marketing agent to help you come up with Facebook ads or $1 million message. You and I always talk about that, or to help you come up with your messaging and some of your propaganda, right? Some of your marketing materials, right? So you can hire that. We've talked about hiring virtual assistants who can be, like you said, a marketing assistant who could just kind of help you get organized so you could do more sales, help your salesperson get more organized so they could do more sales, right? You might get an assistant for them, but that could be a virtual assistant. So there are abundant examples of smaller businesses, how they might use virtual assistants or part-time labor, right? To help grow. So scale, staff on demand is a great way to think about it instead of hiring up and getting stuck, burdensome. The next thing, the C was community and a crowd. So when he talks about that, if you have a community they always talk about building the community of your tribe, people in your tribe, your followers. But the example he used was TEDx talks. So TEDx talks, you know what TEDx talks are. And somebody, I'm not good with the name, somebody took over TEDx. But the way he took it over was, he wanted to touch. He had a MTP, a massive transformative purpose, which was to, help a bunch of people. I forget exactly what it was, but the point was he took it from TED being a conference. He took it onto YouTube and put everything on YouTube. But then he allowed other people in his community, like, hey, if you're a TEDx member, you can host your own TEDx, as long as you follow these rules and put it on YouTube. So then all of a sudden he had this exponential growth where TEDx was this small little conference that you may or may not have heard of, to now we all know TEDx. We've all heard of it. So he used his community to grow his brand, his awareness. I don't know the money statistics behind that, like how he makes money, but that was the example of using your crowd to help grow, right?
Yeah. And well, there's a lot of ways to use your community or your crowd to grow an exponential organization, because, you'll find, like, I'll give you an example. There's a lawyer here in Jacksonville who he's always out in the community. Like, he's got a band, like they go out, they're always out playing. They're always doing these charity events. And what he's doing is he's building community. But what happens is, because everybody knows him,
right,
when they're looking for a specific type of attorney, he's the guy, because he's always in.
Oh, that's great. I was thinking about your insurance guy. You said your insurance guy who always
another guy.
Yeah. He always had a guy, right?
But this is and that's a perfect example. But the other thing think about Tesla. Okay. Tesla wasn't the number one company, but then Elon Musk got out there in the community. By the way, one of the people he got out there in the community with was in SpaceX. SpaceX was Peter Diamandis, and he created SpaceX, and they ran a contest. And so the contest created this giant community of people trying to go to 100 kilometers, which is space. Okay. But they didn't tell people you're going to go to space. We want you to fly an unmanned rocket to 100 kilometers and then return it twice. And if you do that successfully, then you'll win $30 million or $10 million.
Right.
And so that was in, I think that was in bold, by the way.
I think that's in bold. Yeah, yeah.
The story of that. But it brought together this community of people who, many of those spent more than 10 million on their rocket, but
That,
yet
that,
they did it to build this community of,
yes.
so that's, and of course that propelled Tesla, that propelled SpaceX. And that's what we're talking about, is how you can
Right.
use community to propel yourself to exponential growth.
Right. And you could say other communities like I've used Fiverr and TaskRabbit and Upwork to find virtual assistants or people who do project work. And a lot of times those people will refer other people. In other words, if you're kind of in the Upwork or in the Fiverr network and you can't do this project, you'd say, hey, that's out of my scope, but you might call Dave. I've had that happen where they're all kind of promoting each other because they're all kind of in the gig economy. The other thing you mentioned just that was cool about Diamantis' story. So you talked about the $10 million, whoever wins, they said it was a more than a 10x benefit. So in other words, there was more than $100 million spent by all those competing organizations on development of how to go to space. So in other words, if he just would have invested $10 million on how to go to space, he would have just had $10 million. But because he put up a $10 million prize, people invested over $100 million on different ways to go to space. So he got an exponential benefit. I got put up 10 million bucks, but I got over $100 million worth of research. So,
and then Elon began launching rockets to space. And if you listen to his story, this is a
I know. This
sidebar, but the story, he when the fourth rocket exploded, he said, we had, if the fifth one went off, not only would SpaceX have been gone, Tesla would have been gone. I was out of money. It was it. And so, people look at him and go, yeah, he's the world's wealthiest man. But at the same time, he has risked it all. Why? Because of the first point, which is he's got this big purpose. He wants to transform the world. And so it's easy to talk about him.
It is. He's perfect for that fit. Yeah. So here's the third one, and I circled the first one, staff on demand, so like virtual assistants and accountants and bookkeepers. So the other one I circled here was algorithms. So algorithms is what they talk about, but I use this more of like, what data do you have about your own customers? Okay. And so he used the example, and he wouldn't tell us what airline. There's an airline, and I don't know if it's US or international, that had all kinds of data on their own customers, people that are in their frequent flyer program and how often they travel and how much was business and how much was personal, yada, yada, yada. They started a subsidiary that would analyze that data to help them get more airline passengers, right? But then they also started selling that data to other people anonymously, right? To other people who might find, travel agents, right? Want to know the people that have a propensity to do cool personal travel. That'd be a great database for a travel agency to, who are the people that do this kind of travel, right? So they were mining data inside the airline, and it was its own profit unit because they were selling more airline tickets to those people, their own database, right? But they're also selling to other people. What I will use that in is talking about in a small business is your own database. Do you have a database? You and I talked about that. You should have email addresses. You should have some demographic information. The idea being is, who are my buyers, right? Are my buyers married or single, male, female, whatever, in their 30s and their 50s, right? You should know that, which would help you identify your target market. You and I always talk about our target market. So it might be that I'll go back to, we always use landscaping. I looking out my windows, and it might be, gosh, who are the people in this particular neighborhood that buy from me, right? It's, what are the demographics? What are the psychographics? You know more about that than me. But my point being is, what are the characteristics that I can help get my own more customers? I would also say how to get more, a financial advisor, how to get more wallet share, right? If you're a lawyer, how to get more legal work from existing clients. Yeah. And that's what this is more like, how to get more transactions from existing clients, right? The other way to think about that is a joint venture. You and I did a whole call on joint ventures a couple episodes ago, right? Which would be, who could be your JV partner that would be a great benefit to your clients or to you, right? What's one product or service that you could sell to your existing clients? We did that whole thing about pressure washer. Your son's a pressure washer, right? And then
Yeah.
that he could team up with a roofer or a landscaper, right? Because they have similar people that might be good customers. So it could be a joint venture. You could be one joint venture away from exponential growth. There are all kinds of things that I think of when I think of the data inside your own business to help you identify your target market. What are the products or services that you could offer, whether they're your products or services, or whether you could team up with somebody. I think that's the most overlooked for small businesses.
Yeah, and I think part of when it comes to data, okay, the organization of your data is critical. Like how you manage that data. Now, look, I'm going to like the blockchain basically is all about moving data efficiently.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about like whether you're a landscaper, whether you're a painter, whether you're an electrical contractor, whether you're a Fortune 100 company, you have data on customers.
Yes.
The tagging of that data, like
yes,
the searchability of that data is what's critical. So if all of your customers are in a file cabinet, you're, even though it may be alphabetical, you're very limited on your access to data. And the reason I say that is because you want to turn that into searchable data. Well, how do you do that?
CRMs, right? That's what the
CRMs and other things like that. And sometimes, now there is software you can get for your phone where you can actually scan a piece of paper and it makes that a searchable document. And so, when things become searchable, then you can utilize the data.
Then you can use it. And let's use some simple examples, right? My database, who are golfers, right? So if I want to take a group of clients or centers of influence to golf, I can type in golf and here comes all the people that play golf. Boom, boom, boom. That's who I'm going to invite. You can have business owners. I'm doing a presentation tomorrow on buy-sell agreements. If you have a partner, buy-sell agreements, the importance of that. And so who do I send the emails to? Not the retired executive, right? I want to send those invites to the business owners who have partners. So I actually have in my little database who are the business owners, right? So you might have, if you're the landscaper, you might have it by neighborhood, right? That we're this neighborhood, that neighborhood, and you might market to particular neighborhoods. You might have married versus single, right? This is a single guy. I don't know why that would be an advantage. Maybe you get more business from single people than married people. I don't have any idea, but you might divide your database up by those are the type of characteristics we're talking about. Identifying, studying your own database.
Yeah, and it comes down to knowing your customer. The better, the more you know, not just know of your customer and know about your customer, the more you know your customer, the easier it is to market to them.
Yeah. So which goes right to the next one was L, scale, leverage your own assets. So same thing, leverage your own assets, almost exact same thing of are we doing the most we can with what we have? Right. So I thought a great example, well, this is kind of related to the algorithm and go back to your son who did pressure washing and he got a big contract. Instead of going buying a new pressure washer, he teamed up with somebody else who had another pressure washer. Yep. So they both got business, right? That guy had excess capacity on the pressure washer. Your son needed excess capacity from the pressure washer. So they did a commercial job together. We're able to share in the revenues. Right. Yep. That's leveraging his asset. He's the one with the contacts, but he didn't have a capacity to do it or do all of it. So he teamed up with somebody, right? That's leveraging your assets. Your assets might be the network, vice versa. Your assets might be excess capacity. They talk about this during COVID crisis was Dean Jackson, one of our other gurus I love to follow. He talked about the kitchens. So where, you're a restaurant, but you're not at full capacity. So you might make cookies or cakes, desserts for somebody. You might do excess cooking for catering jobs for another caterer because they need excess capacity, right? So restaurants might sell their capacity of their cooking, right? Because they're only doing dinner and lunch, and let's do some catering for some other people, right? So anyway, that's the last one in there was engagement. So they called it engagement. That's back to what they called gamification, incentive prizes. All that was trying to, get frequent purchases from your existing clients or make it a game. That's why you have those drawings, the fishbowl contest is a whole marketing strategy. Drop your card in or pull out and see what kind of discount you get. So there's all kinds of engagement ways to engage or make them, whether it be a discount on a new product or a discount on an existing product or a frequent use, right? But try to get them to engage, for every time you post on social media that you ate at my restaurant, that's 1 point. When you get to 10 points, you get a free meal or whatever.
Yeah, you talk about scalability. So when you talk about video games, okay?
Yeah.
So when we were young, you play a video game, and that was the norm. As this generation moved in, video games started to become a spectator sport. This was amazing. And that's the gamification of the
right.
And what it did is you talk about exponential growth. Now they had like these super World Series of, I mean, they're not World Series. It's not, that's not what they're called, but they have these big gaming conventions now where it's a big tournament and the winner could win millions, but there's spectators in it. That made gaming
that's a good point.
Grow exponentially, because now it wasn't just people sitting at their home on the couch playing a game. It became a sport that other people would watch, and that it brought other spectators who didn't even game.
Well, watch this. So it's funny you say that. So gambling, betting on sports is a huge business worldwide. Golf, it's just now catching on. So the PGA Tour has now teamed up with, I think, DraftKings or somebody like that, one of those companies, because they want gambling for the PGA Tour, so that'll increase engagement, right? So of course you can win who wins the tournament, who finishes top 10, but you can do specifics like Dave and Matt are paired today. Which one of the two of them are going to shoot the lower score today?
Yeah.
Right. So you can bet on one single round.
There's probably guys that are the same betting and all sorts of other things.
There's all kinds of things there. So, but the PGA Tour is promoting that. They teamed up with again the gambling online gambling agency, because they want more engagement. That gambling brings more engagement, brings more observers, brings more interest to the game, just like you talked about video games when you're observing. So I thought it was really cool. All right, so that's what they talked about, the external factors: scale. You got staff on demand, community or a crowd, your algorithms. We talked about the data, leverage your assets, what you got, and they talk about increasing your engagements. So then they talked about, we go quickly through this other stuff, the internal stuff, right? So he called these the internal focuses, and he called it IDEAS, was the acronym, IDEAS. So the first one was interface. But interface, we cheated. It's kind of like workflows and work processes. And you and I have talked about this before, that you should have standard operating procedures. You should have checklists, right? Of whether it be everything from how to greet a customer, how to answer a phone, what happens when an order is received.
I had this very conversation with somebody I'm about to take on as a coaching client. Okay. And his frustration is he's so overwhelmed with the orders, and then he's got to order the product, and he's not supposed to be his position, but he's doing all this stuff. I said, well, why don't you move to the 21st century and put your whole company on an online platform, so your customers order through the platform, and then you have minimums and interfaces, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Why don't you take you take that step and you automate that step? And you think that can be done? I'm like, come on, man. Everything is automated.
Everybody does it.
So it's a matter of taking your system and automating it, creating an interface to
a workflow, standard operating procedure, a checklist, all those kind of words.
Yeah.
The second one was, for the D, was dashboard. And so we talked about, getting your books online, QuickBooks or whatever you want, but then you need a dashboard. So real-time information, instead of looking at your books on a quarterly basis after your accountant has done your quarterly books. By the way, if that's even done, right? I can't tell you how many small to mid-sized businesses don't have quarterly numbers run. Okay. Well, heck, forget about quarterly numbers. How about monthly numbers? How about weekly numbers? Right. So we work with dentists. I work with some dentists, and we've got a dashboard with, by the way, the second part of that is live data. The second part is KPIs, key performance indicators, right? So we could go look at not just how much does the dental practice do in a month, how much does it do in a day, and how much does it do per dentist, per hygienist, right? And we have daily goals and weekly goals and monthly goals, and we can measure that before something happens. Now that's just, a dental practice. We do the same thing with a legal firm that I work with. Where is the personal injury? Where is it in the workflow? and how do we make sure it gets pushed on to the next phase, right? How many cases do we have and where are they? And how do we move each one to the next stage? But they need that data live. They don't need to know, oh gosh, whatever happened to that Dave Mulvaney case? I don't know where that stands. Let's go check it out, right? They need that live data. Where are the cases? Where is it in the workflow? And how do we push it to the next? So dentists use it. Could be manufacturing. You're talking about manufacturing facilities. Where is the good in the process of being made, right? Where is it in the shipment? Hey, I had a buddy of mine order new golf clubs. The golf clubs are here, but the heads are here, but not the shafts. Well, that doesn't do them any good because you need them both to be, for golf. But that's the workflow. The heads are here, the shafts. Well, hell, can I get a new pair of shafts or different shafts? If I would have known that would have taken 4 months, let me just get a different shaft.
Yeah.
Right. So dashboards are important, and those are key for performance indicators, but really live data. Quit looking at your books from your accountant. You just did taxes and that's what you look. Oh, we had a pretty good year last year. No, we should know every month and every week, every 2 weeks about what we look like and how we're doing, so we can spot our problems earlier. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And we can take advantage. Oh gosh, what's really selling? I have some marketing guys who sell, the marketing tchotchkes, with your pins with your names on, and what's the hottest items? Let's sell more of them, right? So the trade show comes up and this is what everybody ordered for that trade show. And then they had so much demand, they ordered more. I'm like, well, heck, why don't we show that to your other customers? Hey, Dave, if you got a trade show coming up, this is the hottest selling trade show trinket, right? Marketing piece.
Yeah.
Why not introduce it? What's working for others? Let me show you. I talk about this. I have a digital marketing agency, one of my clients, and it's like, all right, well, what's working for the dentist? Well, can we go get you more dentists, or can we apply that to chiropractors? Right? I mean, what part of that can we or lawyers? What part of that can we replicate? Right? So we need a dashboard to know what's working and do more of it, and maybe replicate it. Experimentation. So this is part of the ideas, experimentation. And so what they talk about is fail fast. That's what they all talk about, is try something new and try something little. And if it doesn't work, great. Now we know it doesn't work, 100 different ways not to do it. And so don't wait. So a lot of the companies are old and stodgy. Hey, this is the way we do it, as opposed to looking for experiment, new ways to do it. I work with a lot of small business owners, and one of our programs is like an employee incentive, the employee suggestion box. And if we take your suggestion, we give you 10% of the savings.
Yeah.
Right?
The talk about experimentation, 3M, they were trying to perfect this glue, and they came up with this glue that didn't stick too good. And then they ended up making those yellow pads with the
sticky notes.
Yeah. And it became massive. But if they weren't experimenting,
right. That was actually, they were trying to find a glue that stuck forever. Yeah. And instead they found a glue that barely sticks at all. Yeah. And that became a whole new market. All right. The last two, let's see, this says autonomy. And so what they're talking about there is really give your people the autonomy to make decisions, right? So really good customer service people are people that can solve my problem without me having to go talk to the manager.
Yeah.
Right. So if you give that autonomy to the staff, right? You don't want an organization where only one guy makes the decisions. You're the bottleneck. You're going to be the one with all the headaches. Go back to that story you were just talking about from your coaching client. You're the bottleneck. You're the headache. Oh my gosh, you got to solve big problems and little problems because you're not teaching your own staff how to how to solve problems. So giving them the autonomy within structure, right? So it could be a dollar amount. Hey, you can make any decisions under $500, right? You can have a dollar decision like that. You could have a framework. All right, I want you to hear, what's the problem? What have you tried to solve it before you come to me, right? Again, so give them the autonomy to solve the problem. That leads to a better run organization. That leads to better customer service, because they're not all, no, this is the way we handle.
Let's face it, we're talking about scalability in companies. Why are there so many call centers overseas? Is because these people have autonomy to like, before it gets escalated to maybe somebody in the United States, they go through all of these questions and answers, and these people have the decision-making ability to help the customers until it gets to the point where it has to be. moved upstairs, I guess you would say. So
Yeah. And the last thing they just have in there is social tech. And that's everything from file sharing, from, they have the bots, right, for customer service. Hey, I got, 10,000 algorithms and here's the standard, how do I put the new batteries in the remote control, right? That's a standard question. You can go into the bot and how do I put the batteries? And it gives you instructions, right? So it's not just like social media posts. It's what social tech, social interaction. How can I solve some problems? A lot of frequently asked questions you could put on there. You could have resources on your, frequently asked questions. That could be a resource on your web page, right?
yeah.
Not just high tech
Well,
bots.
and I think about like how many different customers and clients that I shared documents in different Google Drives.
Yeah.
We use Slack, different Slack channels.
Slack is a great example.
All of these different areas that we're communicating with different clients, but it's just with them. So that's sharing technology to be more efficient.
Yeah. So those are that was it. So he talked about how to have an exponential organization, and we wanted to bring this down to like, small to mid-sized businesses. So he was talking about you need a massive transformative position, meaning you need, what's your why? And it's a, why like, hey, I want to help you create abundance and a bigger future, right? Then you had to have some external scale, he called it, and internal ideas. So scale stood for staff on demand, community and crowd, algorithms, which I call like data, leverage assets, and engagement. Really the two that stood out for me, especially for smaller businesses, or the three were staff on demand. Think about virtual assistants, think about bookkeepers, think about a marketing assistant, a personal assistant, right? Those are great staff on demands. Think about algorithms and how to use your data. Who are my customers? How can I target my customers better? Leveraging assets. I've got excess capacity. Who else could I sell it for? Use your power washer for your son as a great example. Again, same thing with your information. Leverage assets. How can I offer more products or services to my existing clients? What else do they buy, or would they like to buy or have access to? And could I joint venture with somebody? I think you're one joint venture away from having exponential growth. Truthfully, I really do. So those are the things that hit me. And then on the ideas, the internal stuff, you needed an interface, which is really, we talk about workflows or checklists or standard operating procedures. I think those are key for every business, small, large, medium, right? I think you need a dashboard, real-time financial information. So that's your QuickBooks. That's key performance indicators, right? Daily production. Where are things in the workflow? So you know where things are and where the bottlenecks are, and maybe think of ways to feed them. Experimentation. I think that's key, because you could give your employees, hey, what's the biggest issue? How do you think we should solve it? And I'll give you 10% of the savings, right? So they can help you. Autonomy, let your linemen serve customer service type issues. So, and the last one was social tech. So his point was, you don't have to do all these, but what his research says, if you do 4 of the 10, you get exponential growth. Your business will experience exponential growth. So this was a great one. It was Abundance 360. This guy's name is Salem Ismail, Ismail. Exponential Organization is his book. He had something called scalingforgrowth.com, and that's the number 4. Scalingforgrowth.com. It's great. It's really cool. Matter of fact, they're talking about making like a stock index of how you can invest in the top 100 companies that do these things. They haven't done it yet. I'm like, as a financial guy, I'm like, oh, that sounds really great to me. That would be really cool. But his point was, for big organizations, or if you're starting an organization, this is what you should focus on. If you do 4 of 10 of these, you'll have an exponential growing company. So if there's any of these that you can adapt to your business to help you create your exponential growth, that was kind of the point of this. This is the kind of things you and I talk about in our group coaching program. Matt at profitabilitymd.com, Dave at profitabilitymd.com. We have the website, profitabilitymd.com. We have the YouTube channel where you see this in video form, Profitability MD, over on YouTube, and our podcast wherever they're available. Really, our version of exponential growth is our profit acceleration session, right? So if you want a profit acceleration session where we can find $50,000, $100,000 in your business without spending $1 more on advertising and marketing, it's really how to leverage some of these key elements. That's contact us, Matt at profitabilitymd.com, Dave at profitabilitymd.com. We do that for all our people that join the group coaching program as well. Good stuff, Dave. This was awesome, man.
All right, Matt. Have a great afternoon. Take
Thanks.
care. All right. Bye.